Emotional labor, as I'm describing it in the book, is the invisible work that women usually do to keep those around them comfortable and happy. To break it down a little further, because that's a really big, broad definition, it usually involves four different parts, which are, anticipating needs, figuring out a plan for them, and then either delegating or doing that work. And if you delegate it out, you're overseeing that work. So it's kind of all of the behind the scenes that keeps everything running smoothly.
Yeah. And why?
That was a knowing, yeah.
I'm aware of this work.
Yeah. And why does it fall disproportionately on women? Is that because we are better at it, or we're natural nurturers? Or is this something that we've been kind of, raised to do?
So it is definitely the latter. In all of my research, there's nothing that really bears out that women are better at this naturally. There's no, thing that we're born with that makes us more organized or more attuned to other people. It's really something that we raise women to do culturally. And we do it from a very, very early age. One of the experts I spoke to said as early as, 3, we're understanding what our gender roles are. We're sort of absorbing everything that's going on around us. And so we're internalizing all of that before we can actually vocalize it. And I think that's really difficult by the time we reach adulthood to parse out, is this, a natural part of me? Am I just really, really good at this stuff? Or have I just been learning it for so long that it seems like I'm better at it? And I think that's where most of us fall.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask, because that this is going to an international audience, are there cultural differences between like how women in, let's say, the US and Europe face this versus women in other countries? Or is it pretty much universal?
So most of the response I get, I find that it's pretty universal. Most societies are very patriarchal, and I think that naturally leads into women doing more emotional labor because it's unpaid work. It's often pretty thankless work, and so it gets pushed over to women a lot of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And so first of all, I have to say that I'm a little nervous to ask any questions right now.
Don't.
Because I feel like anything I'm going to say may sound like just a little bit like coming from, I don't know. I'm nervous in asking questions about this topic because I think that I may be just completely ignorant to the stuff that's happening. And I worry that like I will ask questions or I just don't see things that you cover. And I'm wondering what could we do so that this is more evident, or is that something we would want to do, is to be making it more evident? It seems like it makes sense to make it more evident and make us all more aware, but what can we do, and what can a partner do especially to be able to recognize this?
Yeah, so I think it's really difficult when you become aware of emotional labor, or like you're starting to hear about it for the first time. You're like, oh gosh, this has been going on all this time. And I've sort of been oblivious to it. And, I know you guys know Todd and Kathy from Zen Parenting. And when I talked to him about it, Todd was like, it's like a different language. And I'm like, yeah, it's like a different language that, women learn very young. Like your mother speaks French to you and all the girls around you speak French. So you're speaking in French a lot. And guys, they know they don't have to learn French. So it's background noise. And, they grow up and they're like, oh, I'm supposed to learn French now. It's a lot harder as an adult when you've been set in these ways. And when your partner is fluent in it, it can be really frustrating trying to bridge that gap. And I like that example too, because learning a new language as an adult is so much harder, but it's also possible. It's just going to take a lot more work. And I think that work is really worthwhile because, especially for parents, young kids will look at that and say like, oh, this work is valuable when mom is doing it and when dad is doing it. Everyone in the household has those same responsibilities and gets the same kind of praise for it. That really changes their perception of what a partnership is supposed to look like. So as far as what we can do to start recognizing it, I really just encourage like tuning into your life. I think a lot of men have it so that they don't look very deeply at what's going on around them. They're kind of cruising through comfortably, and then there are these certain areas where they're like, okay, this is my area. Work is my area, or doing the yard work is my area, and everything else I can kind of just gloss over. And I encourage men just to like really take a look, take stock of what is going on in your life, and don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, I think there is this uh, taboo a lot of the time for men, like, oh, I should, you know, like if I'm going to be a good partner, I should know what to do and I should be able to just pick it up. And I think to some extent that's true, but also ask your partner, because honestly, like I love to be asked, like, you know, not just like a helpless, what can I do, but sort of an intentional question of like, how can I start to bring balance so that this dynamic changes between us?